Hi, folks. This is Federico. Welcome to the Cuttle live stream. I hope you're having a peaceful week. It's been tough, but um, let's get started with making something that somebody requested. I thought it would be an interesting challenge to tackle this one. So feel free to leave any questions or comments in the comments that I can elaborate as I do the thing. But yeah, let's do it. So Irina posted this on the Facebook saying this is not my picture, but this would make a great template. And so I thought it would be cool to do something like these. So this is like a charm necklace with like a letter, like an initial, and I can see from here that it's like, it seems to be using a specific font, and then we need to separate the pieces that go into the letters, and then it also has like a backer with a piece that we can hang things on. Very nice packaging on this example picture. So I thought we would try doing something like this, and it's a cool way of talking about some features, so how to use components specifically. So thank you, Nancy. There's a little bit of sunshine with like making stuff. Yeah, let's make kind of bright, shiny stuff. So I'm gonna get started with the project. So I have just a blank project here, so we can start from scratch. So the idea is we wanna find the font. I did the finding of the font. So I'm just gonna start with some text. So I'm gonna place some text on the canvas just by dragging it from the left. And let's make it bigger. And I found a font that is not quite the same, but is very close. So it's called, I'm gonna click here for the fonts and then look for it. It's called Ewert, E-W-E-R-T. And so it's not exactly the same. Let's compare it. Let's put an N right there. So it is kind of divided. It divides the letter in two sections. And then if we look at this one, I think this one, the font that they use here had more kind of bulby flourishes towards the bottom of the thing. So this is the N there, and this is the N here. This one is not as bulby, but I think it's pretty close. So I'm gonna rename my project. I'm gonna call it the initial charm. And another thing I noticed with this font is that it's all uppercase. Even if I write lowercase letters here on the right, then it just turn it into uppercase. So that's convenient. So I'm gonna just start with the initial for my name. So I think I want to start by sizing it roughly to where I want it to be. So I think these charms, if I look at it here, I'm actually just gonna modify the whole scale of the letter. So I'm gonna make it 1.9. That makes the entire thing just about 1.5 inches tall, which seems kind of reasonable. So I think the thing I want to start with is I want to be able just to type the letter and have everything be affected by that. What I mean by that is I'm just going to extract that as a parameter, because I'll show you. So here's the text that applies to that, and I'm going to click on the 3 dots over here and extract it as a parameter. I'm going to rename it. I'll call it the initial, or the letter. Maybe the letter is more. And then I'm going to click on the 3 dots here and then move the parameter to the project. So what that means is that now I have this component. I'm just going to call it the plain letter. The letter. I'm going to go to fill. Just so let's make it black. I'll make it a black fill. So what that means, the way this is going to work is that now I have this component called the letter, And if I were to drag it anywhere, so I'm going to drag a few copies of it, like one here, another one, and another one. And they all could have, different treatments or be different. But if I type the letter here, the letter just applies to all of them. So if this one were to be like, gray, and this one is red or pink, whenever I type a letter, that letter just applies to all of them. And so that's kind of like how components operate. Like you have a sort of prototype or like a parent in a way. This is like the one. And whatever you do to that, like any even if you apply like scaling or something, then because this letter parameter applies to all of them, then it's just going to apply. So we essentially are going to be taking advantage of these throughout this project. So let's start with like, so the cool thing about letters in Cuttle or any font is that like they're essentially ready to cut as soon as you go. So for example, let's go back to the F. So if I take this F and I were to like copy and paste it, I'm gonna press Command C, and then like in my case I use a Glowforge. If I paste it here, it's essentially ready to cut right away. Like I didn't have to like convert it to paths or anything like that. I should have loaded a piece of wood on the Glowforge, but like it's ready to cut. And if I cut this one, what I get, let me go back to this. What I get is these. I actually did cut it to like show you. So this is what happens. So it cuts, I get the inside shapes being cut out of it, which is convenient. But if I look again at that, at the way it comes into the Glowforge, this comes in as a single shape. So I think my first task, you can see how, I on the cutting software, I don't have an option to like separate the inside shapes. So I think my first task is to separate those inside shapes so I can cut them out of a different material, because the letter itself, it's already it's already separated, but I want the option to separate these. So I think that's going to be my first task. So let's do that. So I'm going to create another component here. Well, I already have it, but I'm going to call it just the inside parts, or the inside of the letter. And so in order to get the inside, I think the way I want to do it is, I essentially want to give it a color, so I kind of like distinguish it. So, one way to understand it would be something like this. If I were to put like a rectangle behind it, and give that rectangle a color, put it behind the letter, you can see that the red is the stuff that comes through. So that essentially going to be, but I want to do that, but I want that red to have the same shape as my F, or as my letter. So in order to do that, I'm going to remove the holes from this letter. So if I select it, there is actually a modifier called remove holes. It's down here, so I'm hiding it. So yeah, this one is called remove holes. So when I apply the remove holes, all the holes of the letter are gone. So I have a single shape. And so what I can do now is I can actually color that one. I'm going to color it, let's say pink. And then I can bring again that same letter component, and just to confirm that it's working. So like if I were to change an A, so now you see that I have an A with all the holes removed, and I have an A that is just the normal one. We have 2F. So I want these to be like right on top of each other. So as long as I place them in the same position, that's what I get. And so yeah, now this should be working, B, C. And so now what I want to do is essentially subtract the black from the pink. So I'm going to select both of those, and I'm going to go to modify, and there's this one called Boolean difference. So that takes the black away from the pink, and it leaves me with just whatever pink was visible. So that's how I have the inside now. I have the insides of the letter, and it could be any letter. One kind of interesting caveat is that like I'm gonna drag the original letter here for comparison. You know, the letters that are like completely closed, like an O, it also generates this section here inside of the letter. So you can see this section here. I think with those letters, you might want to ignore that piece, or, you know, not cut it. For example, like a P, we get this little thing that might just kind of get on the way, but so we can live with that. So yeah, I went ahead and like I cut one of these sections, and it kind of works just as is. Like this was my original cut, so I'm just gonna get rid of those. But I have the original letter that I cut, and I actually managed to cut these out of like some acrylic. And I think they fit kind of nicely. I mean, they should. I think the fit is sufficient. It's kind of like a nice kind of puzzle. So I think that's the first step. We got the inside, we got the outside, and I think next, we want to create that backer, the thing that holds it. Let's go back to see that initial reference. So I can see that in this case, they added a backer with like an offset. They expanded it a little bit. And then we also need to figure out how to attach that hole to it. So let's create another component. I'm going to add a component here, and I'm going to call it, the backer. And so with the backer, what I want to do is add the same letter. So I'm essentially making just a bunch of modifications on that initial letter that I created. And so first thing I want to do is probably expand it a little bit, because if we look at the reference, this is a little bit expanded. It's kind of interesting here. I'm noticing that they actually glued it with this edge like touching. I would center mine, but like let's see. So the backer needs to be expanded a little bit. So I'm gonna use that expand modifier, also called the offset. And so that makes it a little bigger. Makes it maybe too big. I'm gonna go with like a 0.05 offset. And once again, I want to remove the holes. Actually, why don't I make these, let's give it a fill. I'll make it red. So I want to remove those holes as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select it and use that same remove holes all the way down here. So it has an expand, I remove the holes, and so just to confirm that things are looking the way I want them, I can actually just like grab that initial and put it right on top. So that kind of gives me a sense of the preview. So I get this, so it looks good. I'm just gonna delete it. Now that I cut the holes out of this shape that is gonna be the backer for my letter, I wanted to add the hole. So I started by grabbing a circle. I placed it here. I wanted the scale of that circle to be about 0.05. Which makes it very small. But I want that hole to be a little bit off from this letter. And so in order to have like a sort of a thickness to it, I'm going to select the circle and uncheck this hairline option. And so that gives me the option to change the width of the stroke. So you can see, if we get really close, you can see that the width of the stroke as a default is placed like right on the center of the circle. And so I want the stroke to be on the outside. So I'm going to select this alignment option to be on the outer side. And so the advantage of that is that now the scale of the inside hole is whatever scale I select here. And then the width of the stroke is what determines the size of that section that connects it. So let's make it red. So it's the same color as these. But as you can see here, if I make it all red, then it kind of gets cut off. So I'm gonna, the stroke is gonna be red, but the fill is gonna be white. Let's change the fill to white. So as you can see, with the white overlapping, I kind of get the sense that the hole is going through. So I think that's good. I don't know, I might want to move it up a little bit. So it's kind of connected. And so now to make these into a cuttable shape, now that I kind of visually figured out that all the red is the stuff that I want to be joined together, I'm gonna select everything, essentially the whole and the letter, and I'm gonna apply that flatten modifier. So what flatten does is that it takes everything that is the same color, in this case red, and it joins it. And additionally, if anything that is white, it cuts a hole through it. So that's why I wanted this field to be white. And to make sure things are working, I can check this stroke result. And so the stroke result shows me the result of the operation. So I can see here that everything that's red is going to be cut. So I did cut it actually. I made it. Let me show you. So this is the other one. And so I went ahead and cut that one. So that's what it looks like. So that is our backer. So I think it's working as is. But if I place these on top of it, in order to glue it, I don't have an easy way to like center it. I think that was my slight complaint. But now we're able to assemble it. And it works okay. But I think I would like a nicer way to be able to glue it. And this is something we do with some other templates. So let me try and do that. Also, I think the expand that I apply here it doesn't feel like big enough. So I'm gonna make it a little bigger. So let's jump into that. What I wanted to do with this one now was I want to have a way to have like a sort of outline shape that I can score. So when you score something, you don't cut all the way through. You just create like a nice outline that is really fast. So here on my backer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and place that initial letter once again in the center. And I'm going to do kind of like a similar operation. I don't want to score all the things inside of it. I just want to like contract it a tiny bit. So the score is like a guide, but it gets hidden once I glue the other piece. And so I'm going to apply that contract or inset to these. The default distance is like way too much, so it disappears everything. So I want to make it like way smaller. So here's the, something like 0.02. It's good enough. It's just like a tiny bit inside, but good enough to be a guide. And once again, I don't want to cut the inside section, so I'm just going to remove the holes again. So I can hit this remove holes modifier down here. And so now I remove the holes. It's a little bit contracted. And the last thing is I don't want it to be a fill, because then the software is going to think of it as an engraving operation. So I'm just going to go and select the fill. And there is this option to have no fill, the kind of like line that crosses it. And let's make it blue. The stroke, I want the stroke to be blue. I tend to use blues for scores. So with that done, what I get is just kind of like an additional, and I also wanted to make it a little bit bigger, maybe 0.06, something like that. So what that gives me the option is to have like a way to glue the piece, like a guide. So here's the version now with that score. This is without the score. This is with the score, just a little bit bigger. And so I guess my idea there is that you can like, place these like really nicely centered on the thing. And then go ahead and glue these pieces inside. So I think that's kind of like the bulk of the structure of this template. I think what remains is to like just kind of organize a little bit to be able to use it as a kind of full-on template. So we have the main letter that we want to cut, we have the inside cuts, and we have the backer. And I want to kind of organize them so I can cut them. So one thing I can do is create these. I can create a cut parameter. A cut component. So I'm just gonna call it the cut. And I want everything to be kind of nicely organized here. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag everything. So I'm gonna drag the letter. I can apply the. I actually wanted to have just a stroke because it's a cut, and I'm gonna get rid of the fill in this case. What color? Yeah, let's leave it black. Then I want to be able to cut the inside letters. So that's the one that has that treatment. And I'm going to do the same thing. I just want to have it as I want to have no fill. Just going to get rid of the fill, and I'm going to give it a pink stroke for the insides. And then I want to have that backer. So the backer already has all the things I want. So the confirmation that this is working is that if I change the letter here, then everything should apply. So now I can like cut any letter. And so that would be like the file that I want for cutting. I also want like a preview version of it. So I'm going to go ahead and create another component down here. And I'm going to call that one the preview. And the preview is a sort of way in which I can just sort of assemble it virtually. So I'm going to have a backer. So I'm going to place the backer right there. So as long as everything is in the center or aligned, it should work. So the backer, let's give it a color that, I don't know, something, yeah, let's go with green. I just want to make it bright and visible. Then on top of that is going to go the letter, the initial letter. So that's, I suppose we can like change the color of that one too. Let's make it blue. And inside of that is gonna go the inside cut. And so I just kind of assembled that in place. And so this is like an easy way to confirm that things are working. So let's see, try different letters. C, D, okay. Let's try an H. Oh, okay. So now to present it, to sort of like package it, I'm gonna go to the README to have this kind of like simple view where like, you know, someone else could download it. And so I'm gonna add the component called the preview. So that's that. And then I'm gonna click this plus down here to add the cut. And so because we get this little arrow here, whenever someone clicks download on the SVG, that's where they will get, you know, the sort of like prepared stuff for cutting. I think something I wanted to add also was like a way to change the size of the hole. And so that's just like, you know, creating another parameter. So I'm gonna go back to that backer component. And I know that the hole is this particular circle. And I actually wanted the scale of the circle to be a parameter that we can change. So I'm gonna click on the extract as parameter. I'm gonna move it to the project. And so now I can change the scale of that circle, which is nice. And let's rename it. Let's call it the whole scale. And something I noticed is that with some letters, like maybe H or something, you might want to place it in a very specific spot, or like a J, for example. Like I would want to center it if I'm cutting a J. So I just want a way to move it around. And I can actually do that. I can go to the hole again, the circle, and the position is the part that I want to kind of expose. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to hit the 3 dots and extract this parameter. I'm going to move it over to the project, and I'm going to call it the whole position. And so I think that what allows me to do is, if I go to the README, for example, if I'm cutting the J, I might want to just move the hole a little bit. Something like that to like center it. If I do the H or the, you know, something like the P also is not exactly on the center, but I want to kind of center it in relationship to the letter. All right, so I think this concludes the live stream. I'm gonna share these projects so you can like use it for your own projects. I'm gonna post the link in a little bit, and yeah, I'm sorry about the stream cutting off. I'm not sure what that was all about, but like I'll post an edited video so you can watch that one. Cool. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.